Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a very special video for everyone. Actually, this has been maybe one of my most requested videos that I have put off and put off and put off. And there's a reason for that. The reason is I had no clue how I was going to rank these. Actually, I still don't even know if the ranking that I settled on is correct. But this is probably my favorite house at the minute, and I've dived into many houses. I tend to go everywhere. If you follow my channel, just go back through the 1,000 plus videos I've uploaded to YouTube. I have discussed anything you can imagine in the fragrance world. I've talked about cheap fragrances, expensive fragrances, niche fragrances, artisanal fragrances, masculine fragrances, feminine fragrances, vintage, new, modern, anything you can think of. I've gone everywhere. Discontinued fragrances. And this is one of the houses that just grabbed me, Once I really started to understand what Russian Adam was trying to do, it was kind of one of those things that stuck with me, and I've never turned away. And since probably 3 years ago or so, when I really started to discover the house, it's been an entire, I would say, journey of itself. So this video is an 11,000 subscriber celebration video. So to every single one of you who is subscribed to my small yet humble channel, I do very much appreciate you. I celebrate these little milestones, unlike some folks who buy subscribers and all of a sudden they have 500,000 subscribers. My subscribers are natural, organic, and I'm very, very proud of the job that we've done in the last 3 years or so that I've been on YouTube. Hasn't been 3 years exactly. It'll be 3 years in about a month or so. And so I'm just very proud of the little community that we've made. And so this video is a little bit of a celebration video of that. And, some people look at my channel and they say, oh, you should have more subscribers. I don't care. I'm very happy with the amount of subscribers that we have, because I really feel like my subscribers are some of the most knowledgeable in the entire YouTube fragcom space that are subscribed to me. I learn a lot from you guys, probably more than you learn from me. So let's do this top 20 Areej Le Dore ranked family portrait, which this has taken me a long time. So I hope you guys appreciate this. But Areej Le Dore, basically, if you break it down, Areej in Arabic means like very long lasting, like very intense, has a huge sillage, someone that leaves like a fragrance tail or a trail behind them, if you will. Le Dore in French basically means the golden one, the honorable one, the most rare, the most exclusive, the most exalted, that kind of thing. So Areej Le Dore is literally a blend of Arabic and French perfumery. You have Arabic word and you have French word come together. That's the idea of Areej Le Dore. It's specifically that, this blending of Middle Eastern and French perfumery using high-end, natural quality ingredients. And one of the, I would say, mission statements of Areej Le Dore as a brand is to try to bring these natural ouds, natural deer musk, natural ambergris to you, to the population as a whole. And to try to do it in as fair a way as possible. Some of his pricing is obviously expensive. It's going to be when you're using rare and hard to find and sought after materials. But compared to some of the other artisanal houses, I think his pricing is very, very fair. So a couple things. He does everything in limited batches. So I'm including, like if there's a version 1, 2, and 3, I'm including that into one spot. I'm not doing Siberian Musk I at number 6 and Siberian Musk II at number 7. I'm not doing that, okay? All of them are being combined into one because, in my opinion, Adam does very, very good job of keeping the integrity of the fragrances the same. Even though when new materials are purchased, the rose might be different here, the ambergris tincture might be different there. His integrity of what the fragrance smells like is usually 90% or more the same from my experience, okay? So keep that in mind. I'm not breaking it down by 1, 2, 3, anything like that. The other thing is I'm not including any of the history of oud collections, since those are just basically oud in perfumer's alcohol. It's not really a composition. I'm not including them since they're not full compositions, but they are some of my favorites as an oud head now, and I'm officially now an oud head. It's some of my favorite stuff to spray on at the end of the day. Even though I don't wear it very often as my scent of the day, I use that history of oud collection all the time to just spray on at the end of the day as a very just meditative, soft, end of the day, relaxing, let your brain decompress kind of scent, okay? The other thing is, do not go and spend $2,000, $3,000 a bottle because I put something at number 1, number 2, number 3. I'm telling you right now, I'm not urging that type of behavior. many of these fragrances, especially from the very first collection, they only started with like 100 bottles for the whole world. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is made mostly for entertainment purposes. I don't want you to go, blow $5 grand on some bottle of the #1 spot. All right, just keep that in mind as we're doing this. But before we get into the honorable mention, I want to go straight into the Areej stuff here in just a second. But I want to do scent of the day first, because this is a fragrance from a house called Sherwood, and I'm wearing this as my scent of the day because I wanted to do a review of this fragrance as soon as possible. It's his new fragrance called Artemis. It just came in the mail a day or two ago, and there's his new presentation, if you will, which I really like. And this is a house that is actually inspired by what Russian Adam did at Areej Le Dore. Okay, so Prakhar Gupta, there's his signature. You can see this. There's only 60 bottles for the whole world. He told me there's only 3 bottles left last night. So all I can tell you, I can't do a full review that fast. All I can tell you is that this is one of my favorite of his newer releases. Since Ambrosia, he put out Cuirtis and Poseidon and stuff like that. This is my favorite of all of the newer stuff that he's put out. It's a very oud heavy, lots of ambergris and civet notes and stuff like that. Very animalic in the open, very, very, very challenging. It's funny, I let my daughter smell this on me before she, I wore it as my scent of the day Thursday before I dropped her off to school. And she goes, "Daddy, you stink. You need to take a shower." And I was like, man, I love this stuff. But anyway, so if you're up to blind buy something and you have taste like mine, that's probably safe. You have to hit him up on Instagram. There's only 3 bottles left. Maybe that's not even there anymore. I don't know. But I told him he needs to start doing more than 60 bottles for the whole world. But anyways, so some of these early Areejas were very, very similar to something like Artemis, where there was a very limited amount of bottles for the whole world, and that's it. So as I said, don't go spend huge money on something that's impossible to find. Let's start with an honorable mention before we get into the top 20. And I want to start with a fragrance that is actually an Attar. Now, it was Russian Adam and Sultan Pasha, I would say, that really got me into how beautiful Attar really is. And this is a true sort of Beauty and the Beast offering, if you will, that's created using what Russian Adam calls blending on a molecular level. Not really blending using traditional French style blending. And this particular one is called Civet Bomb Attar. So my only beef is that the writing on the front has worn off. And this is just from me, like putting it in my pocket, bringing it to work, stuff like that. So that's not good. But the fragrance inside is amazing. So basically what blending on a molecular level is when the steam rises, basically when the steam is rising, the steam from all of these vapors rise and hit this condenser, and then they cool off and condense back to liquid. So all 3 notes sort of coexist and live together and merge together into this amazing attar. So he said he used 1 kilogram of real civet paste in here, real Mysore sandalwood. Someone asked me the other day for fragrances that use a real Mysore sandalwood note outside of Al Sandal, which I just reviewed on the channel, and from the new Arabian Heritage collection, which I believe you can still buy on his website. And this was one that popped into my head, Civet Bomb Attar. The other one is Ensar Rose from Sultan Pasha Attars. Oh man, Ensar Rose is so beautiful. So Adam basically did this co-distillation of Mysore sandalwood, Ethiopian civet paste that creates this triumph of like natural smelling notes. And the Mysore sandalwood here adds this beautiful contemplative feel. It acts as the carrier oil in this attar, and it adds this very buttery, smooth, cushiony, soft sandalwood. Again, remember, one of his goals is to bring these type of materials to you, something like real Mysore sandalwood, which you hardly ever get anymore. So, and then you have this punch in the face civet paste. That's why I say it's almost like this Beauty and the Beast composition. Not Beauty and the Beast, the fragrance he released, but like this, beautiful and ugly side, if you will. This sour, pungent, pissy, animalic civet note sort of rears its head, and it's like laying its head on this very gentle, spongy, soft sandalwood. The rose water adds this feeling of like having a smile on your face, good times, Arabic desserts and conversations worth having and stuff like that. There's this feeling of like pink rose. He said he used a lot of pink roses while making this rose water, just being like drizzled on top of this Beauty and the Beast contrast of notes here. And with how much I enjoyed this, it really makes me want to try the others in the luxurious Attar collection, which I never got a chance to try. Things like Royal Musk, Zamzam, Royal Amber, and most importantly, Musk I II, especially Musk I II, because I love Taif roses, and we will see how much once we get to the top of the list. But Adam calls this like a complex Attar. But you notice it's only 3 very high quality ingredients, but used in this co-distillation type way that really turns it into something amazing. So Civet Bomb Attar by Areej Le Dore is my honorable mention. Okay, number 20. Number 20, you guys ready? Number 20 on the list is Agar de Noir. So Agar de Noir, I mean, you're just gonna, if you're new to the House of Areej Le Dore, these presentations are going to blow you away because I think they are some of the best presentations in the game. And Adam often said that, 99.9% of the time the perfume just sits in the bottle, sits on your shelf, so it should be in a beautiful chalice or whatever. So Agar de Noir is basically described as darkness upon darkness, and definitely one of the darkest juices you will come across. And so Agar de Noir has this sort of cloudy, puffy, oriental, irisy, violet type purple feeling when you wear it. I said the fragrance made me feel like I was sitting in class and like learning from the master, because nothing smells like this. Many of his fragrances are like something I've never smelled over and over and over again. And this type of perfumery just kind of grounds me, because it's something new, it's something different that you just don't smell in modern perfumery. So it opens up with this almost chocolatey, lava-like feel that he has become very known for. It's almost become a little bit of his signature. As we'll go through the list, you'll see it over and over again. But here he adds this dark coffee note sort of twist, if you will. This has a lot of gourmand traits. There's this gourmand twist to it. All of these polite, edible feeling notes start to kind of make themselves known, but in an unsweet way. That's one of the most important things for me. So it's probably my second favorite coffee fragrance Adam has done behind Oud I II, which is much, much higher on the list. I'd love a bottle of Oud I II one day. But the spice mixture is very intriguing in Agar de Noir, and it adds this dark green, smoky blending that starts to come through. I would say if you're looking for a unique creation of his that doesn't go on the animalic side of things, but kind of incorporates this very herbal, violety leather, like imagine like violety leather with $1,000, espresso machine making you an unsweetened coffee, and there you go. I don't think it would be possible to keep a gourmand like this unsweet using modern aroma chemicals. That's one of the advantages of using naturals. The real oud here adds this very interesting woodiness while keeping it dry, smoky, and like I said, unsweetened. So Agar de Noir comes in at number 20. Number 19. Number 19 on the list is Siberian Summer. Again, I love this presentation. I'm a big fan of all of his presentations, but I really like this box in particular. This box you're going to see over and over in different fragrances from this particular collection, and I love sort of the hand-stitched feeling on the outside. It's gorgeous. So Siberian Summer is a proper continuation of his musks perfumes. Okay, so if you've smelled Siberian musk or Russian musk, this is basically a continuation of that mold, okay, and a continuation of that theme, but without the real deer musk. That's the twist here. So this is one of the reasons why this is just a little bit lower on the list. There were a great group of people, I'll call them the crazies, that attacked Adam and said his brand was using real deer musk and killing the deer, and the exact type of people I'm talking about. Of course, they don't understand that there's an entire group of people in Russia who live off of the deer, kind of like how the Native Americans lived off of the buffalo back in the day. And so selling the musk pod is just kind of one of a whole list of things in the deer that gets used. Everything from the hoofs, the meat gets eaten, the fur gets made into clothes, that kind of thing. And the Russian government give them a specific amount of deer tags that they can kill the deer to live off of. And you have to think that selling the musk pods like this legally creates a legal market for it. Imagine if they took that away, the price would skyrocket. And then that would have even more of a cause for people to break the law, because now they have a higher potential price that they're going to get for that illegal musk pod. So there's a lot of back and forth economic side of things that a lot of these people don't understand, and they probably never will. But Adam did an entire video on the topic. I would highly urge you to check it out. Needless to say, I say all that to say that this is one of the fragrances that Adam created because of that backlash. He said, okay, I will create a fragrance in very similar style without using the real deer musk. And so what he did, if you notice right here, you'll see on the bottom that it says synthetic musk in particular, synthetic musk in the base notes. And so this is one of the fragrances that, of all of these synthetic deer musk fragrances I've ever smelled in my journey, this is the one that I think could trick me into thinking there was real deer musk in here. Yeah, Siberian Summer would be the one. There is a bit of this mysterious green, resinous, birchy kind of thing that you get in the opening. It's slightly sour, slightly fresh, a little bit. Someone gave a shout out to Spell 125 in the comments of the video I did on this, and it's an interesting shout. This is a little softer, greener. Imagine like the bark of like a youthful tree. You try to twist a branch off of a very young tree, and you know how sometimes the tree bark is almost like rubbery, like you can't twist it because it's brand new. If you're trying to kind of just break it with your hand or something, but it becomes like really, really soft and rubbery and it won't give. That's kind of the feeling. There's this new bark greenery that's coming through, but this rubbery type thing. And then you look up and you realize that in the background there's a house, and this house has a chimney, and there's some smoke coming out of the chimney, and you realize you actually smell some smoke in the air, but it's off in the distance. Then you look down and you see the tree released this sap or resin where you tried to kind of pull the branch off and damaged it. And so you get that resinous, sappy, now with maybe a little bit of incense in the air. And then you feel fresh berries, beautiful florals all around. There's this green, camphoraceous sort of undertone, slightly pissy undertone that starts to come through. And that may bother some. The green notes in here may definitely bother some folks who are not used to smelling this type of perfumery. But even though it doesn't necessarily smell like civet, it comes across in a similar manner, okay? So just imagine trying to break off that young tree branch, right? And you sort of twist it, and the wood gives off that rubbery, malleable feel, but it won't break easily. That's how the green note in here feels. And to me, the fragrance proves to me that I think Adam has a gift, because I think if more of that birch tar was used, instead of the smoke kind of being in the distance, it would feel overdosed and it would kind of ruin the fragrance. But here it's perfectly dosed with that synthetic white musk. It's a proper vintage Sheeper construction, and there's a beautiful champaka flower that is just expertly used in here. It adds a little bit of this golden floral-like hue. Just a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. Very overlooked in his collection. So Siberian Summer at number 19. Man, I talked way too much about that. I need to speed this up, or else this is going to be a 4-hour video. Number 18 is Atlantic Ambergris, and when we come to the first, I do not have a full bottle of in there. Will be a lot more, I'll tell you that. So Atlantic Ambergris, 1 or 2. Again, I'm including them together, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a reference ambergris fragrance, top 3 ambergris fragrance for me. So if you tincture ambergris today, then you tincture ambergris a year from now, and then another year from now, every single time you tincture it, it's going to smell different, even if you use the exact same ambergris piece. That's what makes creating part 1, part 2, part 3 so tough, especially if you have to use a different piece of ambergris. So the fact that these are, I would say, 96% similar, you know, according to Russian Atom, is very impressive. And now, how does it smell? So the ambergris here adds this very salty, briny aspect to a fragrance that is overall very dark and spicy, almost oriental leaning because of the myrrh and nagamata and stuff like that in the base. It's very herbal, slightly green. You get those touches of Russian pine, which he loves using in some of these perfumes. And there's this feeling of a forest and water like right next to each other. You know, forest and then bam, there's water. And a huge overdose of nutmeg. This is probably a reference nutmeg fragrance. There's a ton of nutmeg in here, and cardamom, but a ton of nutmeg. And, you know, just imagine these darker, spicier notes mixed with the ambergris. Many people think of this fresh, uplifting, you know, sun sparkling off the water feeling of ambergris, and that's part of it. The spices here are not as spicy as something like Oud Picante, which I reviewed on the channel. If you want to check it out, my feelings have changed on Oud Picante, but it is what it is. But it's just heavily dosed, and the spices are heavily dosed, but they're not too spicy. They don't come across as super spicy, but you get a lot of spices, if that makes sense. And I reviewed Al Ambar, which is his ambergris fragrance from his newest collection. And I mentioned in that review, Adam likes working with darker compositions when doing this ambergris style fragrances, and it has showed up over and over again. So the florals here kind of give off this honeyed, caramelized, golden aura mixed with the ambergris to give off this sort of pristine, fluffy, silky, powdery sweet, slightly earthy, almost like clay, clay by water. So imagine standing at the edge of the water in part of the ground where the water comes in and then gets the ground wet and then recedes, right? And leaves behind that salty oceanic sludge. That's how the spices come across. But imagine blending them with heavy oriental style resins and a lot of spices like nutmeg. And it adds this unbelievable depth, to the composition, like trying to see the bottom of the ocean. It's just so unique and different. And this is basically the story of life in a bottle is kind of what Atlantic Ambergris is. And don't forget, even though the ambergris is airy and sparkly and briny and all this stuff, it adds this fluffiness to it. The fragrance itself is not that at all. The fragrance itself is a heavy, oriental, spicy, resinous creation. So again, I have a full review of all of these if you really want my in-depth thoughts, but that is Atlantic Ambergris at number 18. Number 17 is Musk Lave. Now, Musk Lave is right here. And again, the beautiful packaging, man. So these are the caps I think he used in his Arabian Heritage collection recently. And Musk Lave came out in 2020. And it's a part of his real musk fragrance line, if you will. And there are two ways that I would separate real musk into two sort of categories, okay? One is when they also tincture the musk pod skin with the sort of inside, the powdery inside of the musk. And when you tincture the skin, it makes it feel much more leathery and aggressive and animalic. That's my favorite way of doing musk. Then there is the other way, where it removes the leathery, animalic, blood, pissy aspects of it, and you tincture more of what they call the grains inside of the musk pod. And you tincture the grains, and it almost gives it more of this fluffy, powdery, soft depth to it, okay? It feels like depth just goes on and on and on. And so imagine a swimming pool filled with like powdery, soft, whipped musk, like with a blender or something. You just whip that musk up until it turns into a cream. You jump into the swimming pool and you can almost float in it. It's so deep and full and rich. And Adam said of all of the ingredients that he wants to bring to the world, musk is the one he's most concerned about not being here for future generations, because outside of Russia, it's basically banned everywhere, okay? So there are plantations of oud and stuff like that we could maybe at least still smell in the future, but musk is one of those that is potentially really endangered for the future. So, like I said, when you tincture the skin, it almost comes across as smelling more like castoreum. Here, this is the opposite of that. There are many variables that come into play when you smell a real musk fragrance. How old the musk pod is, was it frozen, was it stored in a refrigerator or on a counter somewhere in someone's kitchen? I don't want to give the impression that this musk particularly is clean, but it's the opposite of that more leathery, animalic, pissy, bloody musk, okay? Imagine a level of cleanliness with the musk, okay? So if you can just imagine a musk pod where you have chunks of hair and, little dirty bits that look like they're in there, those are maybe the animalic parts, but most of it is the clean sort of grains, if you will, the powdery smelling grains. There's always going to be a dirty aspect to natural musk. You're not going to ever get away with that. It's just how much of that dirtiness is used. There's a lot of cleanliness used in Musk Lave. So the bergamot and lavender kind of comes together to give a bit of this like classical barbershop feel, okay? So the bergamot, I think, because it's old, I don't know for sure, but it feels like you're smelling like boozy bergamot, I don't know, like I said, if it's because it's vintage bergamot. They say bergamot from the 1920s, which is crazy. But if you can just imagine this bergamot and lavender mixing to give off this like oriental style fougere with this amazing real Siberian deer musk that focuses on the grains instead of the leathery outside. And then blend it with this amazingly natural smelling Mysore sandalwood. And there is such a smooth, clean fragrance which polarizes against the slightly dirty bits and pieces of dirty musk and stuff like that. Just go Google search a Siberian deer musk pod, and you'll see the pod has these pieces of hair and all this stuff in there. And if you can imagine the parts that aren't hair, the darker bits, the darker grains being like clean, it'll give you an image for how the musk in here smells. Mostly clean with just little flecks, little specks of dirtiness floating around. The osmanthus makes the Mysore sandalwood feel slightly floral, but also in here, it's just so unbelievably smooth and vintage in style, like Coty or Guerlain from back in the day created a real musk fragrance, which is crazy because many of those old Guerlains, even from 100 years ago, or Coty's, they weren't using real musk back then a lot of the time. Sometimes they did if you go way back, but a lot of times they weren't. Most people think, oh, it's a vintage fragrance from 100 years ago. Of course they were using real musk. Even then they were using synthetic musks. So anyways, that is Musk Lave and number 17. Number 16, we stick with the cleaner musk profile and we go to Russian musk. Now, Russian musk, and you can see I put a little bit of a dent in this. I do wear my fragrances. So Russian musk is crisp, bright, green notes done in this classical Chypre style. It's a continuation of the musk path traveled from Siberian musk, which is higher on this list, and then to Russian musk, and then to Siberian summer. That's kind of the continuation here. So it has these green Russian foresty feel. Look at the color of the front, Russian musk, and it should give you a good idea. Imagine these lemony balsamic touches in the opening. Very herbal green feeling starts to take over, and the musk is there from the very start, but it doesn't overwhelm. This does not overwhelm the fragrance. This is a very professional musk, and this uses more of that smooth, powdery aspect of the musk, just like in Musk Lave, but imagine more setting it on that Siberian musk chassis, if that makes sense, okay? So what's so funny is that Adam told me he actually bought a more expensive version, a more expensive musk pod, if you will, for this Russian musk project and higher end materials and all this stuff, and he expected it to be even more intense than Siberian musk. And his plan was to call this Siberian musk intense, okay? And then what ended up happening was whenever the tincture actually went through, he realized that there was something much more softer, almost like a professional smelling musk. So if I wanted like a real musk fragrance to wear to work, this is one of the first ones that would jump to my mind, along with Musk Lave. The musk here has almost like this baby powder feel, and the musk is noticeable throughout the life of it. It adds this really furry touch, like petting a deer that just went to the groomers or something. Not a dirty deer that's been out in the wild forever. Or imagine like petting your dog's underside or your cat's underbelly or something like that. You know, that furry underside. And so the musk here is just soft and silky smooth. Very, very suave fragrance from my way of looking at it. And that sweet and sour smell, but also that pissiness from the real musk. Again, you can't get away from the dirtiness of real musk. It's really like a religious experience when you smell real musk. It's such a gift and a blessing to get to do. And, you know, remember the deer, when they piss to mark their territory and ward off rivals and tell other female deer that, hey, I'm here and I'm a badass, I'm pretty sure it has to flow through the musk pod. So I don't know if you can ever have a pure, clean musk fragrance. Not real musk anyways. So yeah, Musk Lave and Russian musk are about as clean on the real musk side as you're going to get. So Russian musk, number 16. Number 15. Number 15 is Ottoman Empire. Now again, there's a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. You can see how little juice I have left, and I'm like, man, this is one I really want a bottle of as well. Probably one of my favorite rose ouds of all time, but there is one rose oud that is much higher on the list that tops this for me, my personal taste anyways. But this is literally one of the fragrances that made me fall in love with rose ouds. And I've smelled every single version of Ottoman Empire. They're all full bottle worthy to me. They all smell very, very close. Not identical, but very, very close. Close enough where I wouldn't care. You know, if I could pick up 1, 2, 3, or 4 for a good price, I'd get any of them. And it's filled with pure rose oils, real ouds. You know, the oud feels like it's trumpeting this announcement of the arrival of the monarch, which is basically the rose. And I just imagine this red carpet being rolled out. This fragrance is rich with cedar, apopanax, and myrrh. That's how it started. Cedar, apopanax, and myrrh. And when Adam smelled it, he said, "Oh my God, you know, this really smelled more than the sum of its parts." Okay. And then he started to add things on top of it, the rose, the oud, all that stuff. So everything in here is opulent. Everything's vivid. You know, just think of the name Ottoman Empire. It's so huge in its creation that it feels like an empire type fragrance. And so that's where Ottoman Empire came from, because of the Oriental style that comes to mind. So anyways, many of his early fragrances have this sprayable Attar feel. They feel thick and heavy, and I'm really sad that this is all that I have left, but I will cherish the little bit that I have left until I can get a full bottle. So that is Ottoman Empire, and they say the essence of mysteries with a heart of extravagant richness, a character of unmatchable diversity, the blissful sensation of narcotic depth, and a soul-healing impact. Hell of a write-up. Sorry to see it sold out across the board, but number 15, Ottoman Empire. Number 14, now this is one of the fragrances that will always be near and dear to my heart, because Russian Adam said that I was one of the inspirations, or the inspiration, for this particular fragrance called Royal Barn. And Royal Barn is a release from 2023, I believe. Sorry, 2024. So this is actually this year, earlier this year. And Royal Barn, the bottles are badass. But he said it's basically inspired by my description of Chanel's Cuirtis Russie, which is, imagine the bourgeoisie, the high-end, you know, the elites, if you will, of Russia back in the day, in some fine dining hall with the most beautiful chandeliers, and this banquet that's as far as the eye can see, done by the finest chefs, more than anyone could ever eat. Everyone's dressed in the highest end clothes, the finest jewelries, but when they leave, they don't leave into their Lambo yacht or their G6 or something like that. They get into their horse and buggy, because that's the time they lived in, right? In the 1800s or whatever it is. And you can smell the animalic side of the horse. You can smell the earthiness of the ground. There's this black truffle accord that adds this chocolate fudgy, fungal-like nuance to the work. Just amazing castoreum into the dry down, amazing ouds into the dry down, amazing musk into the dry down. And it's kind of like a Floriental Chypre, if that makes sense. There's some Floriental notes in here, like co-distilling several flowers, including Palmarosa, rose, jasmine, Tajits, and Champaka. So very interesting combination. Interesting oud oils. There's a Bhutan oud oil in here. So yes, I'm very honored to have inspired Russian Adam in any way, even a small way, like this. So Royal Barn comes in at number 14. Number 13, same collection, and probably my favorite from the collection, it is Cuirtis. Now, Cuirtis is the leather fragrance from this collection, as you can imagine, cuir being the French word for leather. And Cuirtis just edges out Royal Barn, even though I like the story of me sort of inspiring Russian Adam. This edges it out by a little bit. Cuirtis is almost like the skin-safe version of his Cuirtis Russie, which is much higher on the list, and another one I'd love a full bottle of. But because Cuirtis Russie uses unrectified birch tar, you're not supposed to put it on the skin. This rectifies that fact, if you will. So here, he still uses the beaver tail oil in his Cuirtis Russie, but it's a little bit more toned down, and it feels like, if you can imagine his Cuirtis Russie meets something like War and Peace, which is also much higher on this list. It has that vintage Russian leather vibe here. There's a little bit of Canadian castoreum and vintage Russian leather vibe with birch tar. Gives a very interesting leather. There's Parajit flower, vintage geranium rose, aged co-tinctures of orris, vanilla, and USA castoreum, which will remind you of a little bit of War and Peace, where he does that co-distillation in the base. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But yeah, Cuirtis is probably my favorite from this collection. As a leather lover, this is an easy love for me. So that's number 13 on the list. The write-up on Cuirtis says, step into an autumn forest full of wild and leathery aroma. This composition focuses on beaver extracts and executed in a vintage style. It brings together all the nuances of animalic leather, from vintage tar oil, Indian oud, and smoky birch tar to narcotic osmanthus. Cuirtis is where the forest meets leather. Bravo for that. All right, Next on the list, we have number 12. And number 12 is one of the few Areej fragrances I have that I actually finished. This is completely gone. You can't see it, but it's gone. I actually just finished it on my trip to Houston. I brought it with me, and it sucked because I went spray, spray, gone. And I was like, no! But this is Chinese Oud, and this is the original. I mean, how cool is this presentation? To be fair, this is the 10 mil travel atomizer, but one of the coolest presentations of all time. And man, I want a full bottle of this. 1 or 2 would work. There's a 1 or 2. But Chinese Oud uses this rare Hainan Oud distilled from 2004. It was a wild Oud from China. Comes across as this unmatchable woody scent here for me. This is one of the best all-time woody scents in my opinion. I think one of the reasons people wrote off Chinese Oud so early is that it takes the fragrance a little bit to warm up. You know, sometimes you spray an Oud fragrance and it's like the Oud is in your face heaviest early on. And here it took a little bit for that Chinese Oud like to shine. You know, it starts off with these boozy old school aldehydes. They add sweet orange, which is very noticeable, and bergamot, and slowly the ship starts to emerge out of the haze, and that's the woody Chinese Oud. And that Chinese Oud note starts to present itself with grandeur and unique earthy, woody aspects. It almost feels like you're riding in a Rolls Royce. It's so unbelievably smooth. You don't feel a single bump. You don't feel a single shift. It's like riding in the backseat of a Rolls. And everything is so smooth and soft. Well, not soft, but the woodiness and the transitions of this fragrance are unbelievable, unmatched. And the image I can give you is from a Stephen King book called Tommyknockers, where she's walking in her land and kicks this silver thing in the ground. And she thinks that it's like a small soda can. She starts to dig, and then she realizes, oh, maybe it's like a coffee can because it's a little bit bigger. So she digs more, and then she realizes maybe it's a metal chest, and she digs more. Well, it turns out to be this giant alien spaceship. And the more that she digs, the more that she uncovers, the more the alien technology takes hold of her. And that's kind of how this fragrance wears to me. The more you wear it, the more it grabs you, the more you understand it. And I, even though I finished this, I want a full bottle. So that is Chinese Oud. Okay, we're gonna do a quick break. Don't ask me why I'm drinking Pedialyte, mostly because I have it and I felt like it. Okay, number 11. Number 11, we have the famed Russian Oud, and this is Russian Oud 1. There was also a Russian Oud 2 he did in the Classics collection. There's the original sort of write-up from 2017, I believe. It doesn't say. His newer stuff says. Anyways, I love the backstory here. As far as anyone knows, there's no agarwood trees growing inside of Russia, okay? But if you can just imagine this sort of gourmand style Oud. I have the actual Oud that's in here. This Chocobarai Oud, they call it. It's a plantation Oud, Thai plantation Oud. And in Russian Oud, you get lots of these dark chocolatey cacao notes. Like imagine melting a Hershey's dark chocolate bar and just spreading it all over your hand. If you want a color image, this is golden brown. Gummy resins, you know, it has the texture of lava and melted chocolate. And if you can just imagine this warm, earthy, slightly sweet, ambery aura that seems thick, almost like you couldn't even stir it, it's so thick in a pot. But it's mixed with fruity, chocolatey Oud, that Chocobarai distilled Oud by Russian Atom, and this very furry deer musk, which they say is Siberian deer musk maceration derived from a gigantic musk pod. So, and then the dry down has this caramel, toffee, incensey, ambery bit that wraps you in a blanket. Actually, I think the dry down with the Google resinoid and Indian myrrh, labdanum, and cedarwood is one of the best ambery concoctions I've ever smelled. I mean, the ambery dry down of this is absolutely stunning. So, kind of like an Oud for people who don't like Oud is really a good way to put Russian Oud. It's a more likable Oud. Okay. And on the website, they say that it's a gourmand Oud perfume built around high-quality agarwood oil distilled by Russian Atom according to an old traditional way, yet with a unique twist. Okay, so next on the list, we have number 10. And number 10 is This is actually Santal Galore, but I'm going to show you the original bottle it came in. This one is probably one of my favorite packagings of all time. I mean, this is an actual sandalwood tree, by the way, that was cut to create these boxes. How gorgeous is this? Now, the downside is that there is a note of durian in here. And durian would crystallize like this. See how it's crystallized? And clog the sprayer. And so, unfortunately, I had to decant it from this beautiful bottle. Yeah, from this beautiful bottle into this not so beautiful bottle, but at least it works and I can spray it still. And so Santal Galore is probably one of my favorite sandalwood fragrances of all time. There's the note listing on the back. Again, how cool is that? And mostly because there's a ton of real Indian sandalwood and real Mysore sandalwood in here. And it has a ton of real deer musk. One of the most unique floral openings I think you could ever imagine. It has this durian note in here, which gives off this custardy-like creaminess. It just goes perfectly with the sandalwood. It's almost like this almondy milk vibe. The durian is just kind of a little bit of this funk in the beginning. You know, when you smell some of Adam's work, you realize you're used to smelling funky things. You smell animalic ouds and civet and castoreum and all this different stuff, ambergris. And so there's no stinky oud in here or anything like that, but durian is known as one of the stinkiest fruits in the world. Some say it smells like old socks or stuff like that. But I've always felt a good perfume should shock you, you know? It should take you back a little bit. And here, you know, you get this very smooth operator fragrance, what it turns into, but the beginning can kind of shock you a little bit. But the buttery smoothness of the sandalwood into the dry down, the powdery animalics of the musk that just kind of surround you like this cumulus fluffy cloud, pillowy whipped cream feeling. Oh, it's absolutely stunning. And one of my all-time favorite sandalwood scents. So yes, Santal Galore at number 10. Number 9. Number 9 is Inverno Russo. And I am very, very proud to have a full bottle of this because I got a sample, which I never even expected to get a sample. And oh my God. And then one of my subscribers, Hari, found me a bottle. Well, he sold me a bottle out of his collection, I should say. But Inverno Russo is probably one of my favorite musk fragrances of all time, I would say. Let me read you this note listing in the write-up, okay? So the top notes are Rose Alba Otto, which I think was also used in Ottoman Empire, and White Pepper Absolute extracted by Russian Adam, Peach Blossom and Osmanthus Co-Absolute extracted by Russian Adam, White Frankincense distilled by Russian Adam, White Gardenia, White Champaka, Clove, Cardamom, Indian Sandalwood Tonka Bean Absolute, Tincture of legally obtained wild Siberian Musk Pod, and synthetic Civet, with a base of rare wild Hainan agarwood oil aged over 5 years, Indian oud oil, white Indonesian Garu Boya, Beta leaf, Virginian cedarwood, and benzoin. So, that was a terrible attempt to whistle. Okay, so here's the description. I love this little poem. Shock, coziness, love, passion, nostalgia, sadness, joy, peace, silence, white and heavy, sweet and hot, fluffy and animalic, challenging and inviting, gracious and calm, dreamy and awakening. Inverno Russo is my personal poetic dream, my imagination's scent of Russian winter. It is a period of perfectly balanced love and hate. Russian winter displays absolute calm, white, quiet beauty, yet it may deliver severe suffering. Breathe in the aura of my lost dream love. So this is, imagine being inside of your house and the Russian winter sort of raging outside, you know? That's the imagery here. And there is this feeling of whiteness from the Rose Alba, which is white rose. And the deer musk in here does give off that leathery, animalic side of things that I so love. It's just, and there's all of these co-absolutes and tinctures, co-distillations that cannot be recreated. So Russian Adam did all kind of little one-offs that just cannot be recreated. So he doesn't think he'll ever do another Inverno Russo, but it is very, very impressive stuff. Number 9. Number 8. Number 8, we're jumping to probably the number 1. If you said, Ramsey, you can have 1. hardcore, real musk fragrance that you don't own, this would be it. It is Siberian Musk, and this is the original, although I've smelled 2 and 3, and they're both amazing. I'd have any of them. I wore this as my scent of the day this week to work too. And one of my all-time favorite musk fragrances, if you let me just own one more hardcore musk full bottle, this would be it. It's acrid, urinous, pissy, animalic. It has that ammonia-like effect of like a cat pissing in a box a little bit. There's this strange, sparkly, lemony, leathery, furry, animalic vibe that starts to come forward very quickly and gives off this kaleidoscope-like effect. You get the green, foresty aspects, and that it's a very majestic green feeling, you know, that Russian forest feel that I tried to describe earlier in Russian musk. But here the musk feels very floral and rooty. I love how the musk just seems to jump off of this fragrance off of my skin, and it's much more intense than the more professional, let's say, Russian musk. You know, I love the bitter aspects and how the musk and Siberian musk just adds these unbelievable layers, like you're falling in a chasm and the layers just seem to go on and on and on and on. And it's full of this sparkly, bubbly, mysterious, musky, leathery, animalic touches all the way to the end, you know, with the greenery here. So here's what the Areej website says about Siberian musk. The time has come to visit one of the purest, wildest, and least known locations on Earth, Siberia. So the notes are Italian bergamot and lime, Indian mandarin, Siberian smoky pine, freshly co-distilled hydrosol from exotic fruits and citruses, a maceration made from legally obtained wild Siberian deer musk grains, Moroccan orange blossom, Australian sandalwood, galbanum, cypress. The galbanum definitely stands out. Cypress, and a variety of spices, wild green agarwood oils from Papua New Guinea, blue cypress, absolute patchouli, and amber. So here, again, there's a little poem with this one. Envision surviving temperatures of minus 50 degrees Celsius while surrounded by tall, majestic pine trees blanketed with smoky snow. The blessed kiss of a musk deer, hints of fresh bergamot, sweet mandarin and juicy lime to remind you of summer, the smoke without fire, and a wild desire for a hot cup of tea, bubbling cool galbanum on charcoal, and frozen orange flower, smoking cinnamon stick, amber resins flowing down a wooden wall, dry, warm patchouli and clove in your tea. This is blue, freezing, early morning, and you are fully covered in Siberian aura. Survived, reborn, fresh, happy. Hell of a little poem they used to do back in the day. You should do that again, Adam. So that is Siberian musk at number 8. Number 7. Number 7, let me grab it. I don't think I grabbed the little sample. Uno momento. Number 7 is this little bad boy, and it is Oud I II, which I wore this as my scent of the day this week too. I've been on a kick of wearing these because I knew this was coming up, and oh my fucking god, man. Oud I II, man. I don't know if you know what Kopi Luwak is. If you don't, go watch my full review of Oud Luwak. But this is probably my favorite coffee / oud fragrance of all time that I've ever smelled. And I've smelled like Ensar's Rumi and some other high-end ones, but this is my favorite. He says, oud perfume featuring the finest aspects of authentic, rare wild oud from Papua New Guinea. From the top to base, the composition of Oud Luwak is built around wild agarwood, capturing its otherworldly beauty and unmatchable complexity. Each ingredient emphasizes the different nuances and aspects of this rare material, particularly focusing on the dark, balsamic, rich, earthy, and gently baked aroma. Thick, dark, smoky, regal, and masculine, Oud Luwak captures some of the well-known ingredients extracted and presented by Russian Atom in a truly unique design. The perfume dances around pure oud oil, Moroccan Noir, with its dark, dry, earthy, incense-laden, and coffee-like overtones. One-of-a-kind, exclusive, and innovative top-quality Sumatran sinking agarwood chip infusion produced by Russian Atom is placed at the top of this composition, giving it an unparalleled deep smoky opening that is reminiscent of a precious oud wood burning on red charcoal that is covered with a thick layer of ash. Dense smoke and refined oud smoke resides in one of the most complex and rich coffee extracts. Okay, so I'll stop there, because if you don't know what Kopi Luwak is, I'm going to stop. All right, you figure it out for yourself. But, you know, walking into like a coffee shop or something, I've never found a fragrance that captures that feeling of like coffee brewing. I always get sweet things from other brands that try to do coffee, you know, coffee and sugar, frappuccinos, you know, all that kind of stuff, lattes. This is pure brewed coffee. And it's so rich and complex, and fuck, I want a bottle of this. Oud Luwak at number 7. Number 6. Now, some of you may be surprised, but I almost put this higher. I'm not going to lie. I almost put this higher. I am so in love with this fragrance. This is Oud Taiwan. So Oud Taiwan could have actually easily been my number 1 Areej Le Dore. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying, look how much of this I've worn already. It has this spicy, fiery vibe, like you're standing over a wok cooking and spices are flowing into your face and making your eyes water. And then it is contrasted with this bitter green, medicinal, tropical, indolic touch, you know? And it comes across as very meaty, you know? When I did an early impression of this, I said that it had this pepper jerky-like smell. And what ends up happening is there's this feeling of black billowing smoke that starts to come out. Someone said it's like being at like a shaman ritual where they're, you know, burning stuff and this black smoke is coming out of the forest. Sometimes I think of like tire fires, just rubber being burned. Very medicinal, but very refined. There's Baronia Absolute and all of these unbelievable notes in here. Indoles and green leaves, and the Oud Taiwan, the little piece of oud that he sent along with it, maybe my favorite oud I've ever smelled in my life, which is crazy because when I reviewed Ensar's Moroki Maharaja, which was his version of a green oud, I hated it. I did not like the way he did it at all, personally. Here, they've used civet, castoreum, fossilized Himalayan amber, labdanum, Baronia Absolute, sandalwood, spices, kelp, so that seaweed accord to add to the greenery with patchouli. And what's crazy is, if you smell the actual oud oil, the fragrance feels like he built an accord that emulates what the oud does, but with these other type of ingredients, you know? It's so smoky and spicy and animalic, and I have grown to absolutely fucking love Oud Taiwan. Like, I want a bottle. Love it. But alas, I'm in a situation where I can't really buy anything, so I will cherish this little decant that I have, but I have an early impression video on the channel if you want to check it out. So that is Oud Taiwan at number, what did I say, 6? Number 6. Number 5. Number 5, man, this is where it really started to get hard. I mean, the whole thing was hard, but number 5, we have Cuirtis. Adam's Cuirtis, which again, you talk about wanting a bottle. Man, I want a bottle. So I'm in love with this fragrance. I feel like this fragrance was made for me, you know? And actually, I've said it before, but Chanel's Cuirtis, which is a top 10 fragrance for me of all time, I think this is better for me, for my taste, okay? Now, Chanel's Cuirtis is more refined and all the French style and all the stuff, and, you know, the Chanel aldehydes and all the florals and all that stuff. Obviously, if you're comparing that to this and that's your thing, you'll like that more. But for me, this is out of this world good. I mean, this is so intense, and it's the first time ever that a beaver tail oil note was ever used, as far as I am aware. They used it again in Cuirtis, like I said, but here it's turned up to an 11, okay? And the only thing that's keeping this from being number 1 is that it's a garment perfume, and because it uses unrectified birch tar, which can be carcinogenic and some other factors. So, you know, the process of using seal fat and all the other things to make Russian leather the world phenom that it was for so long, it made the leather hard yet flexible. You know, it was one of the reasons why the Russian army could march for so long with the boots that they had and the leather goods that they had and all this stuff. And this perfectly encapsulates that. I'll tell you that. I don't know if I've ever smelled a Cuirtis that so vibed with me personally. So it's birch tar in the top, jasmine, violet, blue lotus, and rose in the heart, with natural musk, castoreum, animal notes, and amber. That's that beaver tail oil I was mentioning. Cuirtis is a garment perfume to be used only on cloth from the 6th century. It is hugely animalic, floriental leather featuring unique vintage crude birch tar and beaver tail oil. Cuirtis is scenting clothing, not skin, due to the traces of birch tar used. It contains notes of crude birch tar from 1915 to 1920, middle notes of antique violet attar from 1920, blue lotus, accord, rose, and jasmine absolute, and base notes of beaver tail oil natural wild Siberian deer musk, and amber accord. So that is his Cuirtis Russie, which I would love a bottle of one day. Okay, top four. Number four, we have this little bad boy right here. Again, just look at the detail. It's so unbelievably beautiful. And this is Antiquity. So Antiquity is another French style fragrance that when I reviewed it, I said, if you can just imagine Jacques Guerlain from 100 years ago creating a Guerlain fragrance, but using real oud, that's Antiquity. You know, the French houses never used real oud 100 years ago. It was just something they avoided. It wasn't their thing, you know. It was a Middle Eastern thing only back then. This composition consists of around 70% beautifully aged, absolutely unique antique materials. Sorry, I got a phone call there. Dating from 1920 to 1985, the use of such refined, mature ingredients results in a truly remarkable, rare experience that allows the wearer to be transported into the past to a golden era of perfumery. Antiquity opens up with a delicious, radiating, silky smooth peach aldehyde and dried, dusty bergamot that is bursting with myriad spices. Woody facets residing in the heart of Antiquity is one of the most complex and beautiful carnation accords dating back to 1920 to 1930. It indeed captures an entire universe in itself. Spicy, warm, lush florals, morph from red to blackest black, swelling the wearer to infinity. On the periphery, angelica root essence adds to the spiciness and enhances the incredible depths of carnation. Further beyond lies a touch of pure and wild, mysterious Cambodian oud. It is here in this otherworldly space that one enjoys whispers of dark and resinous tobacco notes, molasses, and a banquet of dry plums and berries with unmistakable incense-laden soft, oudy nuances. The core is planted firmly upon 3 vintage patchouli oils from long ago. Each one of these oils could easily stand alone, a fine perfume in their own right. Chocolatey, earthy, smooth, and refined. They shine exponentially brighter in combination with the Areej signature amber resins and aged muscatone tinctures. That perfectly mature aromatic substances in this composition all share a touch of the mysterious and aura that can hardly be described in words. They must be inhaled, lived, and experienced to be truly understood. This is a scent of the bygone era of perfumery. This is the scent of Antiquity. How about that for a freaking write-up, man? I said while I was reviewing that this reminds me of like being in a train and like going back in time, you know, like a steam engine. And you're going back in time through the old perfumers and you get to like Guerlain, Coty, those kind of all-stars, and you just, you know, add an oud note to something that they're creating. This French-style perfumery really suits Adam well. I love this stuff. I love the Cuirtis Russie accord in here. I love the, you know, I mean, look at these notes. So you have peach aldehydes, 1936. I think that's it, or 1930. Bergamot, 1940 to 1950 and 2019. Carnation from 1920 to 1930. The carnation in here is stunning. Cambodian oud, 75. Angelica root, 1930 to 1950. Patchouli, 1940 to 1950. Cuirtis Russie accord, 1930 to 1950. Muscatone, 1930 to 1950. Patchouli, 85 in 2017. Amber resins and oak moss. I mean, damn. Those are some awesome vintage materials. And it just, it shows through. I mean, this could easily be a signature scent for me. Easily. I love Antiquity. I would love another bottle. I'm happy to have the one I have, but I'd like more. That is number 4. Number 3. All right, so number 3 is the original Oud Zen, but I'm also going to include the re-release Oud Zhen. They're kind of the same fragrance, but they use a little different oud. But this is probably my number 1 oud fragrance, and that's all I have left. And you can see, if you came to me and said, Ramsey, you can add one more oud fragrance to the collection you don't have, this would be, I wouldn't even hesitate. Oud Zen, the original Oud Zen. The one where they only did 100 bottles for the whole world, that's it. But I love this vintage lava-like feel from Oud Zen that ended up getting carried forward into Russian oud. But here there are more notes. There's more castoreum. You know, I'll read you what they basically say, but there's more animalic notes. It's not as soft and gentle as Russian Oud. So you get raw, wild, naked, the true Oud experience. An intense yet gentle, balsamic, and silky smooth Oud volcano, majestically smoking, slowly releasing the concoction of pure Sri Lankan and Indian Oud in spectacular volcanic fashion. Rare, untamed, royal Oud has been pulled up from the base through the heart of this olfactory composition to ultimately reside at the top, giving one of the unmatchable Zen true experiences that genuinely Oud creates. A royal aura that calms the nerves and brings peace, balance, and harmony to one's soul. Swift, creamy waves of fragrant Indian and Indonesian patchouli or sandalwood, spiced up with hints of smooth, highly aged saffron, culminating to fulfill one's wildest olfactory desires. Hell of a fragrance, hell of a write-up. I just love it. I love the animalic touches. This is much more intense than Russian Oud, much more in your face. The Oud is heavier, you know, and the animalic notes are heavier as well. So Oud Zen, number 3. Number 2. Number 2 is the Darth Vader of Areej Le Dore. This is War and Peace. There's a War and Peace 2 I would also recommend. It's, again, probably 90% or more similar. They've changed some things, but it maybe even for the better. Again, signature scent worthy, yes. It was very hard for me to select number 1, number 2, number 3, but this fragrance is basically made up of co-absolutes of wild Siberian deer musk, Russian castoreum, and gray ambergris, and that is basically the base of what makes up War and Peace. And you notice some similar concoction in the base of Cuirtis. So War and Peace is this basically battle of precious animalic ingredients. There are softer ingredients here, like the rose and some of the other stuff that kind of battle for your attention with the hardcore animalic leathery base. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. If I had a chance to grab War and Peace 2, I would. I mean, but I'm very, very happy with War and Peace 1. They say it's a dark, animalic, and leathery composition that is built around a mesmerizing co-absolute of wild Siberian deer musk, ambergris, and castoreum. Created by Russian Adam, we have faced a juxtaposition of black and white, of life and death, and through it all we discover in this calmly aggressive composition a harmonious balance. This olfactory poem, War and Peace, will satisfy even the most adventurous fragrance lover. Hell of a write-up again, and spot on. And yeah, I mean, for someone like me, this has my name all over it. So War and Peace at number 2. Number 1. Oh, number 1, my unicorn. The one that got away. This is Musk I II. So I was never able to secure a bottle of Musk I II yet. I haven't given up yet. But to me, this is my holy grail rose oud. My opinion, okay? Because Musk I II uses this royal grade of Taif rose. And go watch my review, but basically, Musk I II translates to the king of Taif. And it's a simple concoction, but it's perfectly done. Like if I was a sultan, I would buy every single bottle of this on earth and just wear it forever as my scent of the day. They say it's a true legend. I'll read you the blurb. So this composition features a blend of rose oud oils, including a high dose of the Queen of Roses, the finest royal grade Taif rose, and the freshest Indian rose distilled only a few days before the perfume was blended. Royal Taif Rose, the name royal here is not an empty title, but rather it is given such a grand label for several reasons. The Royal Taif Rose oil used in this perfume was distilled especially for Areej Le Dore. In the middle of the Saudi Arabian desert in the city of Taif, this particular rose resides. It is distilled only 1 month a year, according to traditional methods, with a truly unique twist requested by Areej Le Dore. Unlike regular Taif rose, the royal variety is collected before dawn, solely by female workers. It is well known that women's fingers are very soft and gentle, which helps to preserve some of the most delicate aromatic molecules within the flowers. Moreover, unlike other rose oils, Royal Taif rose oil was distilled using only the petals of the flowers, not the stem, okay? So they separated it from the greenery by the female workers. This extra attention to detail negatively impacts the yield of the oil and can hugely increase its cost. However, the final fragrance has unmatched quality, putting it a step above any other pure rose oil. Its beauty, refinement, and liveliness of aroma makes it truly royal Indian rose. Now, I'll stop there, but it's basically mixed with Indian oud and has natural musk, so it has basically all of my favorites in one. Sandalwood as well, benzoin and amber in the base, but it's that rose, oud, probably a little bit of saffron, the natural musk, natural deer musk. You know, it is just perfection for me. So yeah, I would love a bottle of Malik Al Taif one day. I'm in love with that Taif rose DNA, and here it's the best I've ever smelled, ever. You know, actually, and if you said, Ramsey, you could have one fragrance from any house ever created, any house, any fragrance, pick one, I would pick Malik Al Taif. That's how much I love this fragrance. So yes, I'm still on the hunt. Maybe I'll find a bottle one day, but that has been my 11,000 subscriber celebration and my ranked top 20 Areej Le Dore. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorites are. Couldn't include them all, obviously. There's a lot that got left out, but let me know what your favorites are. And I appreciate everyone being along with me on this journey. As always, cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.